So we'll be talking about if Drake is a culture vulture or not. Let's watch this full clip first.
Think about it. Drake was doing Jamaican accent at one point. Then he was doing Memphis accent at one point. Then he doing a that's
So so if I was a chef out of Atlanta,
Right.
and I went to set up a pop up shop in New Orleans, and I started cooking with Cajun food,
Right.
and then I went out to California and I started chefing up steak tacos. Now I went to New York and I started doing. Am I a culture vulture or
Or
am I just a
versatile.
chef that is indulging in what my people consume at where I'm going?
you went to them places. Did they tell you that that's what they wanted to consume, or is you like, damn, this is what they consume, and I'm gonna make that for them?
I'm gonna
you
make that
assume-
for them.
So
Give
you
it
see
to-
how dangerous that can become with somebody that's really not part of the culture, but they looking at the culture for one way and then creating that culture.
But where are we getting the you aren't really part of that culture?
How is he not a part of the culture?
He's from Canada. Nigga.
Are there not black people in Canada?
There's black people in Canada, but are they part of our culture? Because we talking about American culture.
Oh, so if you're talking
So
about
you're just
American-
talking. Okay,
Oh,
American
but then
culture.
New
We
York,
American.
but New York culture is
You said
not the
New
same
York.
as LA culture.
it's not.
Do you think Bloods and Crips is black culture?
No.
People in LA will say that's West Coast shit. Y'all just started gangbanging, but if we're all black,
Hold
right?
on. No. That's specific to that territory. What I thought you was asking me at first. No. Hold on. No.
Now listen, I watched the little Bloods and Crips LA part at the end, trying to really get it, because the dude didn't agree that it was black culture. So it's like, I really didn't get the gotcha moment, so much, but it doesn't matter. We're not going over that. We're going to go over some of the other points. So we're going to chop this up into a fine grain as far as the video we just watched. And I'm going to go over, points that I think need to be addressed. So let's go back to it.
Think about it. Drake was doing Jamaican accent at one point. Then he was doing Memphis accent at one point. Then he doing that's
So before we get into this, I just want to say, man, this is not a stand page for Drake. I am a Drake fan. I'm a Kendrick fan. You could, if you comb through the page, you'll find harsh criticisms of them both, or at least fair criticisms, I'll say. So I'm only saying that to set an expectation, so you don't think, oh, he's a stan or anything. Because when people on either side hear things they don't like, they automatically say, oh, you a stan. And listen, I know some of y'all is going to come in and dicky, so it is what it is. Let's get straight to the first thing. I just want to get this out the way, man. This nigga's outfit is confusing. But the second thing, Drake using all those different accents is very confusing. Honestly. And that's me being honest. And this is the thing, I really know hip hop. So you're not talking to somebody who is fresh to this shit. If we go back to the 90s, it was very common for people who weren't Jamaican to use a lot of Jamaican accents and stuff like that. I listened to a lot of Tribe Called Quest. They definitely did that in their 90s music. Jillick, you wind up your hit. And Fife got a whole set of bars where he doing the Jamaican patois and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure those guys aren't Jamaican. I'm not about to fact check because this is not a video about Tribe. And even then, this goes way past Tribe. It's a lot of people who were doing Jamaican accents as rappers in the 90s. You got that one. I don't know if it was MC. It wasn't MC Search, man. I don't know the dude's name. The dude who did Informant. About the fucking white dude. Apologies to MC Search. It was a rapper named Snow. And he was found by MC Shan, put on, recorded. He recorded him doing the song and stuff like that. So it was pushed by somebody who is very of the culture, MC Shan. And he pretty much convinced him to do it and all that stuff because he was going to the Jamaican house parties and rapping and stuff like that. But when it goes national and he's making money off of it, people look at him as a culture vulture because, one, he is not Jamaican, even though he participates in Jamaican culture in New York or whatever. But the other thing is he's white. He's white. And this is some black shit. So when we look at things like that, it goes back to the Lord Jamar thing. White people are guessing hip hop. So certain things, black people will definitely be given grace where white people aren't given grace. And that's just real. And if you want to say that's racist, well, I think it's racist that, niggas have to cut off their dreads to have teaching jobs and, get to go up in corporate. I think it's racist that, institutions who have more power than fucking entertainers and rappers and stuff like that are stopping black people from getting homes in areas, that are outside of the red line. So you could be upset about black people gatekeeping, this little art and stuff like that, to where you still gonna profit because somebody white is gonna sign you regardless. And white people gonna fuck with it and people gonna fuck with your music and stuff like that. But when we get to talking about like, oh, it's racist, like, excuse us for protecting the art form from predators. Now, I know I went far away from Drake, but the whole reason that I had to go down that lane is so that you understand what culture vulturing is when we talk about accents and things of that nature. Now, when we go to what Drake did specifically, like Jamaican, okay, that's been done in the past and it's accepted when it's coming to black people and stuff like that, et cetera, et cetera. But then you get to the UK shit and it's like, it's just kind of weird. It's kind of weird, but okay. Then you get to, I've been watching him since Degrassi. And of course he's Canadian and stuff like that. But then this Canadian goon accent, fam, it comes out of nowhere, fam. That shit comes out of nowhere. I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? And then, the Memphis shit that they talking about, it is like he's a chameleon when it comes to his accent. I will say that is very peculiar, but that's not necessarily culture vulture shit. And don't worry, we're going to address the race stuff later. We got to get to that later. But just this accent stuff, I don't think imitating the accent for a rapper, because again, we accept black people doing the Jamaican shit, right? We accept that. We've been accepting that in hip hop forever, right? Okay, so that's cool. Who is gatekeeping the what you call it, the UK accent? Who is gatekeeping that? He's from Canada. He's from Toronto. You can't really say anything about him having that accent. And when we talk about Memphis, I'll be honest, I don't remember him having a Memphis accent. I don't remember that. I done seen his whole discography. I don't remember him having a Memphis accent, but the people in Memphis really rock with him. I ain't see nobody in Memphis come out and say nothing against Drake. Now, Houston, that's a different discussion. We may get to that later. But Sauce Walker was definitely against him to some degree. We'll probably get to that or not. I don't know.
So if I was a chef out of Atlanta,
right,
and I went to set up a pop-up shop in New Orleans and I started cooking with Cajun food,
right,
and then I went out to California and I started chefing up steak tacos. Now I went to New York and I started doing, am I a culture vulture or am I just a chef that is indulging in what my people consume at where I'm going?
You went to them places, did they tell you that that's what they wanted to consume, or is you like, damn, this is what they consume and I'm gonna make that for them? So
I'm gonna make that.
Now, as far as what the guy asked at the end with the sweater, that doesn't matter at all. And I'm gonna tell you why. The analogy was very bad. The reason the analogy was very bad is because the parallels between cooking and rap or hip hop are very different. They are very different. Let's start here. When we talk about a rapper's sauce and writing and stuff like that, if you go and you recite someone else's lyrics or take a significant chunk of someone else's lyrics or even take somebody's lyrics and twist them around in another way, even if you take their style, somebody with a distinct style like E40, if you start rapping like, you start doing a lot of that stuff, people are going to say you are biting. People are going to say you're biting. If you, as a rapper, have somebody else write your raps, you have a ghostwriter. That is frowned upon in the rap community. There are rules, and people get really upset if these rules are broken, and that is a part of the culture. When we go to cooking, that doesn't translate as far as those things that I mentioned. You could take a recipe from anywhere, from anybody, cook it, and if it's good and it's the same exact recipe, nobody has an issue with it. And you as a chef, you are fine opening a restaurant and using other people's recipes to a T. All people care about is if the food is good. This happens all the time. So it doesn't matter what cuisine you were cooking, as a chef, nobody is going to look at you as a chef any type of way for cooking any recipe, even if it came from another chef, even if it came from another culture. Nobody is going to look at you as a chef any type of way negatively unless you try to act like you invented it. And Drake is not acting like he invented anything. So the parallels are really bad, but let's take it a step further because I'm going to keep it all the way real with you. When you get to cuisines like Italian and you also get to Chinese or anything Asian, and even in some cases, Mexican shit. If you go into a Mexican restaurant, you expect to see some Mexicans. When you go into an Asian restaurant, you expect to see some Asians. When you go into a what do you call it? Italian restaurant, you expect it to be ran by Italians, right? That's where culture is when we talk about food. Now, a better parallel or a better example would be to say something like, okay, so what if you are a black guy and you try to open up a Chinese restaurant, or you try to open up a Mexican restaurant, or you try to open up an Italian restaurant? This is the thing. Being that those things are cultural, as far as the food that's being served is cultural, the people who may have an issue with that are people from that culture. And the main people who are going to have an issue with it is other Chinese food owners or other Italian restaurants and things of that nature. They're going to be like, bro, you can't exist in this ecosystem making this shit. You're not official. You're not one of us. Now, this is the thing. All of that is hypothetical because I don't know no black people to open Chinese or Mexican restaurants. I've never heard of that, never seen it. The other thing that I got to get to before I get to the point I was about to make is, will the people, because that's just, what that is, the restaurants would be equivalent as far as like, okay, a black guy makes a Chinese restaurant and the Chinese restaurant owners get mad. The Chinese restaurant owners would be represented by rappers. Those would be represented by rappers. People who do the same thing that the person opening the restaurant does. Chefs. So chefs and rappers. One chef is of the culture because he is actually Chinese. One has never even been to China and has never had sex with a Chinese woman, didn't grow up in a Chinese household. Nothing about him is Chinese. He's completely black. So boom, that's that parallel right there. See, I'm doing a better analogy than Buddy already. Now, are the people going to accept a Chinese, restaurant with all black people in it? The answer to that is kind of funny. It's kind of funny. They may not. On paper, you would say, no, they wouldn't. But what if they have a unique twist to it that makes it kind of uniquely their own? Like instead of General Tso's chicken, they got motherfucking Colin Powell's chicken, General Colin Powell's chicken or some shit like that. And they fry it up different and da-da-da-da-da, something like that. Like if people see it and they like, you know what, I'm going to go try that out, and they like it and word gets around that it's good, that's all the people really care about. They care about if it's good. Now, Asians may say, like, as far as regular consumers, they may say, there's no way I'm eating this shit. I'm not eating food from a black dude making Chinese food. I'm not eating that. Some may indulge in it, whatever the case may be. But I have a real example of that. There's a pizza shop or a few pizza shops. I think this pizza shop is in Jersey. It's in Jersey. I seen it on Instagram, and it is a black Jamaican pizza shop or something like that, because they be putting oxtail and all types of stuff on the pizzas, right? And it's really popping in that neighborhood. It's like it gets a lot of traffic. It's really booming. So pizza is an Italian food. You would think that only Italians can open a pizza shop, but I've seen a black person open a pizza shop and they get mad business. Now, let's draw the parallels from that example that I just made to rap. So remember, we got done with the chefs. The chefs are the rappers, right? When we talk about the culture, if Drake is imitating, we'll say Memphis or Houston culture, right? If he is imitating Memphis or Houston culture, he is a chef from outside of that culture, making that culture's food and selling it, right? Okay, so you still with me on the analogy. The rest of the world is not Houston. Drake is touring in Australia as I speak. So when we talk about the people and the consumers and things like that, what do the consumers care about most? They care about good food. What do the consumers in music care about most? If the music is good. So everybody is going to consume it, and if they think it's good, then it's good. They're going to fuck with it. Now, the people who have a say culturally are the people of Houston or Memphis. Those would be, in the example that I gave, the parallel to Asians in the community that don't have a restaurant, that are like, I'm not about to eat, da 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 da. But guess what? In this example, if we do the parallel, the Asians are eating at the black person's Chinese restaurant, meaning Houston and Memphis fuck with Drake. And it's not just the other chefs. People, you don't hear people from Houston really slandering Drake. You don't even hear up and coming rappers or anything like that. The reason Sauce Walker started slandering Drake in the first place is because he was so cocky. He was feeling himself. He said so, he was a Drake collab was lined up. They was gonna be cool. They was gonna be making music, bro. Collab was lined up. This nigga got on the radio and said, I don't need Drake. Drake need me. Drake pulled the plug on that. And this nigga was hating on him. He was hating on Young Thug. He was hating on all types of niggas 4 years for clout and attention, if I'm keeping it real with you. That's me keeping it a band. So he's the only, and even then, how this nigga have a problem with Travis Scott? And Travis Scott is from Houston. Like this nigga saying Travis ain't doing enough for Houston, all this stuff. And it's really because you ain't get a collab from Travis. And when it comes to Houston, Travis and Bun B, who Bun B co-signed Drake early, fuck with Drake. They fuck with Drake. And they're some of the biggest artists out of Houston. Bigger than Sauce Walker, keeping it a whole G. Megan Thee Stallion, a new artist. She liked Drake before all the Tory shit. So it's just like people, he get love in the strip clubs and shit like that. So it's like nobody in Houston really got a problem with Drake to where they gonna say anything about him or anything like that. Same with Memphis. They show him love. And it's not even mob ties in Memphis. You never heard anybody from Memphis say something negative about Drake. So it's like everybody fucks with Drake. So the chef analogy, I gave a better analogy than Buddy did. When we look at this, the cultures actually fuck with Drake. The cultures who have a say and who should be able to, air quote, appropriate their culture or whatever, they fuck with Drake. I just seen Drake post a snippet, but I didn't see it posted by him. It was posted on like Say Cheese and stuff like that. And it was some New Orleans bounce. He might be jumping on it soon or whatever. Or he might have just gave a chick a stimulus package. Who knows? But it was a snippet of just her rapping, the chick. And she was doing like, that New Orleans bounce music. And people was like, oh, the culture vulture at it again. Culture vulture, culture. He could have just been giving her a look. But guess what? Them people down there fuck with Drake. They fuck with Drake. So period, point blank, all of this culture vulture shit, like these people who actually own these cultures that you were saying that he is raping and pillaging, they fuck with him. We're going to continue though.
For them.
Give it how dangerous that can become with somebody that's really not part of the culture, but they looking at the culture for one way and then creating that culture.
But where are we getting you aren't really part of that culture?
How is he not a part of the culture?
He's from Canada.
Are there not black people in Canada?
There's black people in Canada, but are they part of our culture? Because we talking about American culture.
Oh, so if you're talking
So
about
you're just talking, okay.
American.
So we're going to stop here and we're going to address some things that they said and some things that actually weren't said but are popular narratives. So the whole thing about him not being a part of the culture because he's Canadian. See, this is where things get sticky. Because when you say the culture, the culture, the culture, are we talking about hip hop culture? Or are we talking about black culture? Because they are not the same thing. Hip hop is a piece of black culture, but it's not black culture. A lot of black culture is ingrained in hip hop, but you got to understand the difference and the separation and things of that nature. So when we look at these different, first off, let's just get this out the way. Black American culture is very influential. It's very influential. It definitely finds its way into hip hop. And hip hop is the megaphone for the culture to where a lot of people who are not from the States begin to emulate the culture. And I'm going to tell you why this is a necessary point. And this doesn't apply to Drake. Drake has been a cool his whole career. But it's very funny because I'm going to mention another Canadian that he's not necessarily close to, but kind of close to in proximity. But Pressa. Pressa is some type of African Canadian. You know, he may be Somalian, but he don't look Somalian to me. I just know they got a lot of Somalians up there. So he's something else, though. He is not, he might be Caribbean or he's something else. See, I went and Googled it. He is Jamaican and Filipino. That's what he's mixed with, Jamaican and Filipino. And he's also Canadian. What this nigga did is exactly why I don't like when it comes to certain people of different demographics speaking on black Americans or black shit. People like him is the reason that there is a separation between black Americans and other black people from other places. He got on Twitter some years back and just started slamming black Americans for whatever reason, talking about we don't have culture, you know, we don't have culture, da 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 da, blah, blah, blah. And he was being really derogatory and disrespectful about it. But everything about how this nigga moves is black American culture, from the chain to wanting to pop bottles to holding the bottle to wearing a shiesty mask. That was popularized by us. Niggas was not wearing that shit as far as street niggas anywhere. They wasn't wearing that shit. Bathing Ape was popularized by American rappers, Biggie, fucking Pharrell, and Lil Wayne. You wouldn't be wearing that shit if it wasn't for black Americans. But this right here, you got on a fucking Montclair bubble jacket with fucking Jordans on. Who and a fucking shiesty. Who popularized everything that you fucking wear and put on your body? Who gave you the culture that you fucking engage in as far as you being a street nigga and all of that shit? You call yourself a stepper. Like, who gave you that shit? All of that shit that you engage in comes from black American culture, whether it be fashion, whether it be gangster shit, whether it be flossy shit, all of that comes from foundational black Americans. That's what it is. And listen, I don't got nothing negative to say about no other country or no other demographic, but you just got to understand where the shit that you doing comes from, and you got to respect it. You got to respect the culture. So with that being said, when we talk about black, and this is the thing, the shit that we mentioned, yeah, hip hop may be a part of the influence and it may be the reason that they get this shit. But the reason that it makes its way into hip hop is because it comes from the streets. It comes from the neighborhoods and things like that. People wasn't wearing Dickie suits on the East Coast. That was some West Coast shit in the 90s. And guess what? It got popularized and they made that the thing. They made that fashionable as far as the West Coast. But I think you have a thorough enough understanding so we could move on. And we're going to define what a culture vulture is this deep in the video, and it's not going to be long. A culture vulture is basically somebody who is, air quote, not of the culture. And we'll define that in a moment. But not of the culture, who comes and uses the culture for profit. And it is considered, you know, as far as however they decide to do it, it's considered exploitative. That's what it's considered. So when we look at this, let's define who is not of the culture. Well, when we look at black culture and we talk about black American culture, if you are not black. You are automatically disqualified to some extent. Puerto Ricans in New York and Dominicans in New York and places like that, to where they embrace, like the black community embraces these people and they're kind of ingrained with black people, they get a pass. They are a part of the culture. Minorities in general get kind of a yellow slip, to where it's like you're not of the culture, but it's possible that you can be embraced at different moments. White people just completely out. Just completely out. And just to be clear, I live in an area where the Hispanics are ingrained with the blacks for the most part. We don't have any friction and we really rock with each other. It just is what it is. So that's what it is when it comes to black culture. Now, when we get to hip hop, remember, hip hop is just a subculture of black culture and it's kind of an extension of black culture, however you want to put it. So the same thing applies to some extent. If you are white, you are not of the culture. But the difference is you don't have to be a black American to be able to engage in hip hop culture or be of the culture. You could just be black anywhere on the planet. You could be black and be from anywhere on the planet. And you're a part of the culture. It just is what it is. Now, when we get past that, it depends on what you were doing as a non-black person, especially a white person. Like a white person, you were on much thinner ice than the other demographics. But it depends what you were doing is one of those non-demographics. And I'm going to give you an example. 3 different examples, 3 completely different rappers. And they're all going to be white. When we look at somebody like Mac Miller was cool because Mac Miller wasn't a highly negative, aggressive rapper. Mac Miller was pretty positive, and where Mac Miller got a lot of points is by rapping over old school beats as a young guy and having a lot of appreciation for music that was from the older era. A lot of older MCs respected him for that. And even then, as far as black people, we not racist. So we just rock. He's non-threatening. There's nothing about him to where he's messed up or anything like that. And there was not even a millisecond in Mac Miller's career where we felt like he was a detriment to hip hop or black people. We never felt like he was a detriment to hip hop or black people. So with that, Mac, and let me just throw this on top. Mac was very good at his craft. Mac really made good, unique music. So with all of that being said, culturally, he is accepted. We completely embrace him. Never want to hear nobody try and say Mac is a culture vulture, ever. Let's go down to Eminem. Now, Eminem is funny because Eminem has a dicey past. Because he did the Fuck Black Girl song. And I don't know what people in Detroit was doing. I don't know if they knew it or whatever. He apologized for it. But we found out after he was like a super mega star and it just kind of blew over and he apologized for it, got over it. This is pre-cancel culture anyway. Benzino was trying to get him out of here way before cancel culture. If that had a hit during cancel culture, oh my goodness. And he was 3 years into his career. Oh my goodness, that would have hurt so much. That would have killed somebody like a Macklemore. But the thing about Eminem is from a black, poor ass city. And I'm not saying that the niggas in the city don't get money. I'm saying if you go and you look at the poverty of Detroit, like it's definitely a city that is not, one of the richest cities and stuff like that. It's a poverty-stricken city to some extent. And don't get it twisted. That's a lot of urban cities and stuff like that, but that's Detroit to whatever extent it is. So it's very hood. It's a very hood city. Guess what? He was rapping. So he was battle rapping and doing tournaments and things like that. So he had skills. He cared about the culture as well as far as hip hop culture. But the other thing, he came in everybody from Detroit is rocking with this cat. He had Proof and all of the D12 and stuff like that. All of them are black. Not one of them is white. Granted, you go back and look at Eminem's first group or whatever, it was all white dudes, but he got into a pocket where he was embraced by a bunch of black people. Then you have his best friend, Royce the 5'9". They're very cool. He is black. He vouches for him. But then you also have Trick Trick, who is, I could say that he is a gangster because he was on it might have been American Gangster or whatever it was on. He was on like some gangster special to where they was identifying him as a gangster and had him around a bunch of other gangsters. And he might be an ex-gangster. We could say that. But he is very influential and respected in Detroit. One of the most respected people in Detroit. He fucks with Eminem. So when you have your whole city behind you and a bunch of black dudes behind you and stuff like that, from that era that he came from, these newer Detroit rappers be like, I don't know Eminem, nigga. He ain't never slid down a 6 mile. They be on that. The new Detroit rappers, like Sada Baby and shit, they be on that. But when it come to the generation Eminem came from, they truly embraced him. So he has the support of a bunch of black people where he came from. So why did I have to point that out as far as the difference between him and Mac Miller? Well, Eminem said a lot of crazy shit. Eminem has dissed a lot of people. Eminem was very aggressive. He was kicking up a lot of dust. So when you were somebody like that who is aggressive and, you got a lot to say, again, white people in hip hop are on thin ice. So he knew who to say shit about, who not to say shit about, and that's how come his Suge diss never dropped. He had a Suge Knight diss that he did in 03-ish that just dropped. It literally just dropped like the end of 2024 while Suge is locked up. But let me speed this up. Eminem is good and he is a more aggressive rapper because of those reasons. Now, when you get to somebody like the last person I named, who is a gangster rapper, OT the Real, he is somebody who, he makes gangster music and stuff like that, but he sat in the penitentiary and stuff like that. So that gives him credibility and all of that stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Other black rappers who make the same type of music, they fuck with him. Guys who cats be like, oh, he's stamped, they fuck with him. They fuck with him. So those types of things give him credibility as, a gangster rapper. But on top of that, he has the support from some black people. So, and even outside of that, just from interviews and stuff like that, he said that he's had, and the numbers kind of show it from the sales and stuff like that. But he says he has, the support of a lot of inmates and things of that nature, when it comes down to it. So the prison system really rock with him. People in the prison system who are incarcerated really rock with OT the Real. So it's like, it's really authentic. It's really respected by the streets and stuff like that. So that's what it is. That's what you're looking at, and that's what it is. So when we look at those guys, all three of those guys, we got a gangster, we got a tough guy, we got a pacifist, all three types of white guys. All of them are of the culture. The only person who really has a strike against him is Eminem for the black girl shit. And the people around him forgave him. And most people overlook that and just get over it because it's like, all right, it is what it is. Now, I understand this video is long, but let's get to the point when it comes to Drake. When we say he is not of the culture because he is Canadian, he's a rapper. So when we talk about hip hop, that's complete bullshit because he's black. Because he's black. So he's automatically a part of the culture. Just because he's black. Now, when we talk about, he's culture vulturing American culture, the first thing is the guy saying that you are not really in a position, like, we don't gatekeep American culture as a whole. We don't. We just don't. They're Australian country singers, bro. So they're not gatekeeping Australian country. No, they gatekeep when it comes to niggas. Domestic niggas at that. So we don't really get, and even then, y'all got to naming like accents and specific places like, New Orleans and stuff like that with the Cajun food example and stuff like that. We already went over who really has the authority to gatekeep, those cultures in that situation. And it's not Kendrick Lamar rapping about what goes on in Atlanta all the way from fucking LA. That's not who gets to gatekeep Atlanta culture. So that's the second thing. So the first thing, him being Canadian, when we talk about just fuck black American culture, but hip hop, that doesn't matter. That goes out the window. Then when we talk about regional culture, none of the regions, none of the regions have anything negative to say about him except Sauce Walker. Just one guy out of a 15-year run. Kendrick is from LA. And let's get to this last point. Where is the exploitation? Drake has done so much for a lot of these people. He's done, when we talk about the UK scene, he put Dave, when nobody knew who Dave was in the States, on OVO radio. So that's how I became a fan of Dave. I can't remember if I was listening to Stormzy before I found out who Dave was or after I found out who Dave was, but that was around the time I got into UK music. So Drake put a lot of people on the UK music, but then he did a feature. He put Gigs on his tape. So he put some money in Gigs' pocket, put some money in Dave's pocket. But then on top of that, when he does go to rock the UK accent, he does a song with Heady One. And let me tell you something. I know American niggas that love that shit. They don't fuck with no UK music and they love that shit. Man, jaw get wild like Chubb's detail. Like, niggas love that shit, bro. It's niggas who absolutely love that shit. And guess who also love it? Niggas in the UK. And let me take you to the last point. Top Boy was a great series that a lot of people love. It had a cult following, but it was canceled 10 years ago. Drake got that shit re-greenlit so we could get a series with a conclusion. Bruh, that is major. That is major, bro. We got to see UK street culture and shit like that. We got to see it. The world got to see it. It is because of Drake. Now, this benefits, everything that I mentioned benefits people from the UK. And not only does it benefit the people directly involved, it benefits the UK rap scene directly or indirectly to where it's getting more attention. It's getting more attention and people begin to look into other rappers and stuff like that. So people who like to call Drake a culture vulture never really look at the good that he does for these other people. Why do you think it's called the Drake stimulus package when people like Block Boy JB, the Migos, Future, and so many other people get it? It's because he has been the hottest motherfucker for a long time. And getting a song with him gives you a significant boost and significant attention, and people are instantly, Lil Baby, very aware of your brand on a national and global scale. Especially if the song does very good. So this is the issue with this culture vulture shit. Remember I said we was going to come back to race. Some of y'all probably heard this shit and probably didn't make it this far because I said Drake is black. That probably threw a lot of y'all for a fucking loop because no, he's a culture vulture because he shouldn't. I don't want to hear him say nigga no more. Kendrick Lamar brainwash you niggas. You niggas are fucking idiots. I gotta keep it a bean with you because, and this is why you fucking idiots. It's really a lot of just Drake haters. It's not even niggas who don't even fuck with Kendrick like that, but they just wanted to see Drake lose so fucking bad that they are grasping onto anything. anything to discredit who or what Drake is. I just had to go and get a full screen picture of Dennis Graham. That is a fucking black man. Look at that mustache, bro. Look at the skin tone, bro. This nigga is 100,000% black man. Those are the balls that Drake came from. This nigga Kendrick said, I don't want to hear him say nigga no more. And y'all bought into that shit. Niggas started writing think pieces about how this nigga is a white culture vulture. This nigga's Drake said nigga in the first sentence. That was the first word he said on his fucking Family Matters or whatever. That's the first words he said, and niggas said, I don't think that was the right thing to do. Niggas said, niggas got on their blogs and it's not the right thing for a nigga that came out of this man's ball sack that has black jeans, that y'all have not had a problem with him saying nigga for 15 years. It's not smart for him to say nigga. It's not smart for him to say nigga. Like, what the fuck are we talking? Like, it just got to a point where y'all motherfuckers is just completely brainwashed or completely biased and you just hate this nigga. And the hatred has overcome you so much that you begin to say stupid shit. Because this is the biggest factor. Y'all still love Jermaine Cole. And all of y'all would not say that J. Cole need to stop saying nigga. And nobody was saying Drake need to stop saying nigga at any point in his career. I've never fucking heard it. I've never heard it. I'm not about to beat a dead horse. That's a fucking black man that you see on the screen. And Drake is fucking black. That's just what it is. If you want to say mixed or whatever, nigga, when did y'all start saying mixed niggas can't say nigga? Like, when did that start? You niggas is full of shit. So when we talk about this nigga being a culture vulture, the answer is absolutely not. The only thing that I will say that is funny when it comes and questionable when it comes to him and culture, it's two things. It's two things, and I'm gonna keep it a bean with you. The first thing is, like I mentioned, the accents is weird. One person having and playing with so many different accents, that shit is weird. We have never seen that in hip hop. We just seen niggas do Jamaican accents, and that's really it. We have not seen niggas with 3 different accents. We have never seen that, bro. And I'm talking about like get off the mic and it's like, you're fam, we going to the mall, fam. Like I haven't seen I haven't seen one rapper with 2, nonetheless, 3 different, we just gonna stick to 3. I haven't seen one rapper with 3 different accents on the mic and off the mic in my life. He's the only one. This nigga is, we call Soulja Boy Shang Tsung and shit like, no, this is and Tory Lanez, no, this is the real Shang Tsung. Cause that nigga can turn into a fucking Jamaican, that nigga can turn into a fucking Canadian, like a Canadian fucking thug. That nigga can turn into a roadman fam. You know, that nigga can turn into a lot of shit. But this is the other thing. The second thing that I will also say about him when it comes to this whole culture vulture shit. So the first thing is that the accents is weird. The second thing is, at one point, he absolutely needed those people that he was doing the stimulus packages for, and he needed, you know, them to make music that would appeal to those markets and that would fit in with those markets and just to have that appeal. And that was a part of Kendrick's narrative on Not Like Us. But the issue with that is that it makes it seem like it's one-sided, like the other side is not benefiting from this. They actually benefit more than this nigga. Cause that nigga could go and bang out another R&B song or another "You're a good girl and you know it" and do way more numbers than whatever the fuck he about to do on some Yes Indeed club banger shit with Lil Baby. That's just what it is. He could do another One Dance and just be out of here. Even though One Dance has, somebody that's not from Atlanta. But you get the point. Like, those people on the other end are absolutely benefiting, and don't think for a second that at that point in their career, they wasn't ecstatic. They wasn't ecstatic. This nigga Future to turn on Drake. That nigga was upset as fuck doing interviews where Drake didn't show up for the Tony Montana video. That nigga was salty. He was mad. They built a good friendship after that, and it helped both of them mutually. This nigga Future also got mad when this nigga did an album with 21 Savage. So there you have it. There you have it. We got to stop acting like the shit is not mutually beneficial. Did it benefit Drake? Yes. Did he need it to some extent to, appeal in certain markets and appeal in certain lanes that he's not that strong in by himself? Yes. Yes. But do those people benefit? They benefit more than he does. And that's being real. So that's enough for today, man. Let me know your thoughts. I'm gone.